Chapter 4 Triangle. Weeks turned into months, and life moved on. I called home from time to time to check on my parents. I knew they were still dealing with the loss. Everyone was. Thankfully, things were calm at home, and that alone was enough peace for me. We had covered quite a number of modules and slides, and were preparing to write our first quiz. Lola, Jane, Andrew, Harold, and I had formed a study group and met occasionally to revise. Aaron and I had gotten closer. And no, we weren't hiding anything, at least not yet. Sure, I think he's good-looking and sweet, but I'm not falling. He probably has a girlfriend, maybe, I don't know. Alex and I also kept in touch, but the distance between us made it hard to meet up, but somehow, we still managed to stay connected. Then came one quiet Saturday afternoon. I had just finished some room chores when Angel, out of nowhere, struck up a conversation, a full, actual conversation. She asked if I had any plans. I told her no, and she looked at me with this odd seriousness and said, "We've been here for months, and honestly, it feels like a decade with you. The vibe is off." I was thinking maybe we should pick up the pace with our friendship and go out, have some fun, talk more. I just blinked at her. Confusion written all over my face. Was this a prank? Did I accidentally step into a multiverse? "So, what do you say?" she continued. "Are you in?" I nodded, still mentally trying to process the fact that Angel, the same one who once called me a drama queen, was now suggesting a girls' night out. She practically picked out my entire look, too. It was almost like she didn't trust me to dress myself. Honestly, it felt like my outfit might somehow reflect on her public image. Still, I decided to go with the flow. I wanted to give our relationship a chance. Maybe we could become real friends, you never know. When she looked over at me after the makeover, I'll admit, I looked great. Way nicer than my usual casual vibes. And the fact that it was all Angel's doing? Honestly, I was shook. I didn't know whether to feel flattered or suspicious. We ended up going to this trendy rooftop lounge called The Nest, very popular with Chanceland students. It had great music, fairy lights, and a vibe that screamed Instagram-worthy. As we sat talking over drinks, guess who showed up? Angel's boyfriend, and along with another guy who introduced himself as Nathan. Oh, it all made sense now. Angel hadn't invited me out to bond. She was setting me up with her boyfriend's friend. A whole matchmaking mission without my consent. I was livid, but I stayed cool. Nathan sat so close our shoulders were practically touching, and every time I turned even slightly, his face was right there, like my personal space had been swallowed whole, and his smile screamed Playboy in all caps. Meanwhile, Angel was already cozied up with her man like they were rehearsing for a romantic drama. And me? I was stuck entertaining Nathan, pretending like I was totally comfortable. Spoiler, I wasn't. Who told her I was single and searching? Like hella? I started praying for a distraction. Anything to get me out of that situation. And that's when I saw Alex, 3 tables away with 2 of his friends. Instantly, I had a plan. I excused myself to use the washroom and called Alex, letting him in on my escape plan. He laughed and teased me the whole time, but agreed to help. The plan was simple. He would come to the table, pretend to be my boyfriend, and whisk me away, thus crushing Angel's matchmaking mission. And it was working. Until the plot twist of the year walked in Aaron. Just as Alex reached our table and said, "Hey babe, ready to go?" With perfect boyfriend energy, Aaron appeared behind him trying to say hi. And then Alex added the cherry on top. He kissed me on the cheek, which wasn't part of the plan, by the way. I froze instantly. Not because of Alex, but because of Aaron. I did understand why, but I was so concerned about his expression and what it meant. Was he confused? Hurt? Disappointed? All I knew was that I wanted to explain, but I didn't even know what I'd say. Alex, still deep in character, pulled me away, grinning like he'd just won an Oscar. Angel and her dumpling squad were left speechless. I, on the other hand, locked eyes with Aaron as I left, unable to read what he was thinking. Alex kept going on about how well the plan worked, how the cheek kiss sealed the deal. But I was still trying to untangle the emotional spaghetti in my head. Finally, he noticed. "Hey, what's wrong? What are you thinking about?" I blinked, snapped out of my daze, and said nothing. I just asked him to walk me back to my hall. We walked in silence, and when we arrived, I gave him a small wave and went in. Over the week, Angel and I quietly slid back into our old ways of avoiding each other like two magnets with the same pull. The great roommate peace treaty had expired, and awkward silence was back on the menu. Meanwhile, Alex kept texting and calling like a man on a mission, but I left every message on read and every call on missed. It wasn't that I didn't want to talk. I just didn't know what to say. My mind was a whole confusion warehouse with no delivery and no dispatch. And then there was Aaron. Normally, he'd text, "Hey," check in with a meme, or call to ask how my classes were going. But this week? Silence. Pure ghost mode. Not even a scene on my WhatsApp. It felt like I'd been benched from a game I didn't even know I was playing. 2 days into the week and nothing, your girl was being haunted by a boy who was very much alive. I couldn't keep all the drama bottled up, so I finally broke and spilled the tea to Lola and Jane. They listened, wide-eyed and nodding like gossip judges. After a dramatic pause, they both reached the same suspicious conclusion. 1. Alex has a thing for you. 2. You have a thing for Aaron. Me? A thing for Aaron? Absolutely not. I denied it faster than someone caught eating the last piece of meat in a stew pot. But deep down, I didn't know what was happening in that emotional jungle I called a heart. The following day, we had legal systems and methods class, and the lecturer decided to bless us with a research assignment. Group work, of course, and not the nice kind. The you either pass together or fail dramatically kind. Thankfully, we were tasked to form a group of 5, and Lola, Jane, Andrew, Harold, and I decided to go with the flow since we already studied together. We picked research times and scheduled our misery efficiently. After class, I spotted Aaron at the far end of the lecture hall. But he wasn't alone. There was a girl with him, a new face, too confident. She looked too at home beside him, like this wasn't their first time together. I decided to walk over and say hi, just being friendly, nothing dramatic. "Hey," I said, flashing a small smile. Aaron responded, but oof, his voice sounded like it had to push through a brick wall of tension just to reach me. Awkward didn't even begin to describe the air around us. You could cut it with a debit card. And then the girl, Miss Confidence, decided to turn the awkward dial all the way up. "Wait, are you guys exes or something?" "What?" Aaron and I whipped our heads toward each other like contestants on a game show that just heard the wrong answer. Our mouths hung open like we were catching flies, and just when the silence was about to explode, Aaron said, "Nah, we're just friend and she has a boyfriend." Like, sir, come again? But weirdly, that sentence made my heart throw a mini party. Not because of the boyfriend lie, but because it told me exactly how he felt that night. The way he said it, he was hurt. He thought I was actually in a relationship. And something about that just did it for me. In my joy, or let's say emotional confusion, I laughed out loud. A whole burst of laughter. And then I remembered. They were still standing right there. So I faked a cough. Like an aggressive, drama school-style cough. It was tragic. Aaron didn't even crack a smile. He simply said, "Bye," with a tone so dry it could absorb oil, then walked off with the girl like I never existed. And that's when it hit me, I was jealous. Jealous. And now the question became, why? Why did it sting? Why did I care? In that emotional whirlwind, I decided to stop hiding and go face the music, or in this case, Alex. He deserved answers. So I called him up, and we met. The moment he arrived, I could tell he was mad. His jaw was clenched, his brows furrowed. And honestly, he had every right to be angry. I ghosted him after dragging him into a fake relationship stunt that ended with a surprise kiss and zero explanation. I felt like a criminal confessing in front of a disappointed judge. "I'm sorry," I blurted before he could even sit. He didn't say anything, just stared. I should have called, texted, or something. I wasn't trying to be cruel or use you, I trailed off. Words were failing me, like a pen running out of ink during exams. Alex finally sat and let out a long sigh. "I didn't mind helping you that night. Honestly, it was fun messing with Angel after all you said about her. But then you disappeared. You asked for help and left me hanging like I was just a prop in your drama." That cut deep. I know, I whispered, eyes glued to the floor. I messed up. You didn't deserve that. There was a pause. Then, so was it the kiss because it wasn't deep, or was it that guy behind us? Is there something going on between you two? I looked up. This time, I had no smart reply. No denial. No deflection. Just silence. The kind that says, maybe. I don't even know myself. There was a stretch of awkward silence between us until I composed myself and muttered something about just suddenly freaking out for no reason. Of course, he didn't buy that. Who would? But I didn't know how to explain myself either. It's not like I had sat myself down and untangled my thoughts with a fancy conclusion and a bow on top. So instead, I did what I do best, change the subject. I tossed in a random, out-of-nowhere question just to kill the silence that was practically screaming, guilty, in auto-tune sound. To my surprise, we actually drifted into a new conversation like the last few minutes hadn't just been a full-blown emotional earthquake. Eventually, we parted ways, and I headed off to meet my study gang and hopefully end the day on a productive note. On my way to our group meeting, guess who I saw in one of the lecture halls? Angel's boyfriend. But this time, he wasn't solo. He was with some girl, and when I say they were comfortable, I mean you'd think he was single, kind of cozy. Inappropriate doesn't even cut it. Now, I could have just kept on like it was none of my business. But come on, this was Angel's boyfriend we were talking about. The roommate I wouldn't mind trading for a remote battery, which technically meant this should have 0% of my interest, but no, of course not. Even though she is a handful, she still deserves someone like me standing up for her. So I walked in, full-on soap opera mode, and confronted him right there. The girl looked like she'd just seen a ghost. The moment I mentioned he was dating my roommate, she grabbed her stuff and bounced with the speed of light. And there I was, left alone with Mufasa, the cheating boyfriend. After what felt like an eternity of back and forth, this guy decided to say the trashiest thing ever. Now tell me why? Why, this guy had the audacity to ask if I was into him. Could you imagine? As if. This guy thought so highly of himself, I couldn't even believe my ears. Like, what? Bro, shame is free. Please try some. I left him standing there, marinating in his own shamelessness, and headed off to my study group, only a few minutes late, thank you very much. By the time we wrapped up, we were feeling pretty solid about our presentation. At least one thing was going well in my life. But the drama wasn't done with me yet. When I got back to the hall, all I wanted to do was drop the bombshell about Angel's so-called Prince Charming. Except there was a twist. The guy was already there, coiled up beside her like a loyal house pet. I stood at the door, blinked twice, laughed so loud I could hear myself, and without wasting much time I launched right into the details of what I'd witnessed. I mean, if she was going to stay delusional, at least let it be an informed kind of delusion. But Mufasa, the cheating boyfriend, had other plans. Apparently, I was the villain in his remix. According to him, I had been all over him, begging him to dump Angel for me. And would you believe Angel actually believed that nonsense? Well, to some extent, I could believe it, but still, really. She came at me like a lioness on a revenge mission. It was in that moment I realized these two were meant for each other. Barbie the barbarian and Mufasa, the billy goat. Yep, definitely a match. Soulmates in delusion. So I bowed out gracefully. Whatever volcano they were building, it wasn't going to erupt on my conscience.